Okay, stop what you were doing. Because since the last time we talked about this case, things have moved. And not in the direction that Joe McCann probably hoped. You already know the basics. You know Ashlee Jenae, real name Ashlee Robinson, went to Zanzibar with her fiancé to celebrate her 31st birthday. She got engaged on Safari. She posted that caption, Chapter 31 and I'm exactly where I need to be, and 4 days later, she was dead. The police said suicide. Her family said absolutely not. Her fiancé Joe McCann waited 11 hours to call her mother, and when he finally did call, told her Ashlee was stable. You know all of that. But here is what you do not know yet. The autopsy is done. The documents are out, and what is inside them does not just contradict the suicide narrative, it destroys it. We need to talk, right now. All right, let's get straight into it, because this is where everything shifts. So the autopsy was completed on April 15th, and look, before I even get into what it says, I need you to understand the fight it took just to confirm it was done. Ashlee's father, Harry Robinson, had to physically travel to Washington, D.C. and press government officials in person just to get basic communication flowing between the U.S. Embassy and Tanzanian authorities. Not to get the results, just to confirm the autopsy had happened. Think about that for a second. This man lost his daughter. She is thousands of miles away, and he has to fly to the capital and knock on embassy doors just to get a call back. Harry says the family has only been told the investigation remains ongoing, and they are now waiting on the full report to determine what comes next. So the results? Still sealed, still not released to the public, still not released to the family. But here is where it gets loud. Before the official autopsy results dropped, a local Tanzanian outlet got hold of hospital documents from one of the facilities Ashlee was taken to that night. And what those documents say is the reason this case went from a tragic story to a full-blown international conversation overnight. The hospital record lists her immediate cause of death as oxygen deprivation caused by strangulation and suffocation. Not hanging, not self-inflicted, strangulation. The same report noted an unidentified mark around her neck, despite the initial claims that she had hanged herself. Now, I know some of you have been following this case closely enough to already know that detail, but I need you to stay with me because the significance of it keeps growing the more we learn. Here's the thing. Hanging and strangulation are not the same thing. Not in a doctor's office, not in a courtroom, not anywhere. Hanging, the way police described it, is self-directed. Your own body weight does the work. It points one way. Strangulation means external force was applied to that neck. It means something or someone was responsible for cutting off that airflow. That is a completely different story. That is a completely different crime. And it's sitting in an official hospital document with an unexplained mark on Ashlee's neck that nobody in authority has publicly accounted for. So right now you have the police saying one thing and the medical record saying another. Two official documents, same woman, completely different explanations for how she died. And the man who was there, Joe McCann, has made no public statement. Multiple outlets report that attempts to reach him for comment were unsuccessful. His passport is sitting with Tanzanian police. He's being questioned as a witness, not charged, not arrested, witness. But that passport is not going anywhere until investigators say so. And investigators are not saying much right now. Meanwhile, Tanzanian officials have not yet released Ashlee's body to her family. Let me say that again because it needs to land properly. Ashlee Jenae, born April 5, 1995 in Philadelphia, is still in Tanzania right now, today. Her parents cannot bring her home, cannot plan a funeral, cannot have a single moment of closure because the body of their child is being held while an investigation that has produced zero public answers continues behind closed doors. Her father is in Washington, D.C. knocking on doors. Her mother told CBS News that the call she got from McCann 11 hours after Ashlee was already rushed to the hospital was the call that told her Ashlee was stable, not dying, stable. He told me that Ashlee did something to herself and she was being taken to the hospital, and he told me she was stable. I asked him when it happened and where it happened, and he told me that something had occurred 11 hours prior to when he was reaching out to me. 11 hours. And then the next call didn't come from McCann at all. The fiancé did not reach out to us at all. We found out from the hotel, Harry Robinson said. The hotel told them their daughter was dead. Not the man she was engaged to, not the man who 6 days ago had gotten down on one knee in front of a lion on a Tanzanian safari, the hotel. Now, and I will keep saying this every single time it's relevant, Joe McCann has not been charged with anything. He's a witness in an ongoing investigation. This channel doesn't hand out verdicts. That's not what we do here. But what I will say, and what I think any reasonable person watching this would agree with, is that the combination of that 11-hour silence, that stable lie, that medical record using the word strangulation, and that unexplained mark on Ashlee's neck, that's not a collection of coincidences. That's a collection of questions that demand answers. And right now, none of them have been answered publicly. Here's something about Ashlee's parents, Harry Robinson and Yolanda Denise Endress. They are not backing down. They are not people who are going to quietly grieve and eventually fade from the headlines. They are not going to accept the investigation is ongoing as a final answer. They will not stop until they have the truth about what happened to their daughter. And the way they've moved since April 9th, the day they found out Ashlee was gone, has been nothing short of relentless. My daughter Ashlee, she's no longer here with us, and we're trying to find out why, her mother told ABC News. It's like a part of me has been taken. She's always smiling. She loved being in front of the camera. Nothing about it makes sense. It just doesn't add up, her father said. They've given interview after interview, not to keep themselves in the spotlight, but because every interview is another opportunity to keep pressure on an investigation that could very easily be deprioritized the moment the cameras move on. Harry physically went to Washington, D.C. He sat across from government officials and demanded that the U.S. Embassy establish direct communication with Tanzanian authorities. That trip worked. Contact was made, the autopsy completion was confirmed, but the results still not in their hands. The U.S. Embassy in Dar es Salaam dispatched a coroner to assist local authorities with the autopsy. That's significant. That means the U.S. government has skin in this investigation now, an official presence in the room where the answers are being determined, and yet nothing has been released. The family has also been specific, not just emotional, but specific about what they want investigated. The hotel surveillance cameras. There's cameras everywhere at a resort, and that will match the timeline, Harry said. Just do the investigation and let us know. That's not a complicated ask. Resort cameras at a $950 a night property are going to be comprehensive. They're going to cover corridors, entrances, exits, common areas. They're going to show who went where and when. They're going to either confirm or complicate every account of that night. The family wants that footage reviewed and accounted for publicly. So far, crickets from investigators on that front. Ashlee's father also launched a GoFundMe with a target of $50,000 to cover travel, legal navigation, and bringing Ashlee home. The community showed up. Tens of thousands raised in days from people who never met Ashlee but who looked at this story and decided it was not going to be another one that slipped through the cracks. That GoFundMe is not just financial support, it's a signal. It's the public saying, we are here, we are watching, and this family doesn't fight alone. We're here, helpless. No one wants to talk to us. Just let us know what happened. That's the only thing we want to know. The truth. A father in Washington, D.C., asking for the truth about his daughter. Still waiting. Let's talk about what happened when this story hit the internet, because the public reaction to the Ashlee Jenae case has been something else entirely, and it tells you everything about why this case matters beyond the details of one investigation. When the story first broke and the suicide narrative started circulating, the response was immediate and it was loud. But the moment that sent everything into a completely different stratosphere were 4 words from Cardi B. On April 13th, she posted on X, "That girl did not off herself." No context, no elaboration, just conviction. And that post from someone with her reach redirected millions of eyes towards this case instantly. People who had never heard of Ashlee Jenae were suddenly in her Instagram comments, suddenly watching the videos, suddenly reading the timelines, suddenly asking the same questions her family had been asking since April 9th. And once those millions of people started digging, they didn't stop.
X, Threads, TikTok, Reddit, Lipstick Alley, every platform picked it up and ran with it. Ashlee's page became a memorial and a movement at the same time. Tributes mixed in with demands for justice, people tagging journalists, people tagging the U.S. Embassy directly, people tagging Tanzanian authorities directly. The community that responded most forcefully and most personally was the community of Black women that Ashlee had built her brand within, the soft life space. Women who had followed her, been inspired by her story, seen themselves in her story, who had just gotten engaged and just turned 31 and was standing in a field with rose petals at her feet saying she was exactly where she needed to be. And they were not having the suicide narrative, not without a fight. The name Shanquella Robinson came up immediately, and it needed to. For anyone who doesn't know, Shanquella Robinson was a 25-year-old Black woman from Charlotte, North Carolina,
who died in Mexico in October 2022 during a trip with friends. The initial story was a spinal cord injury. Then a video surfaced of her being beaten. The case became a national reckoning about what happens to Black American women when they die abroad, about foreign jurisdictions moving slowly, about investigations that stall when the pressure fades, about families left without answers for months. There is a specific vulnerability that comes with being a Black woman traveling abroad with a partner. International incidents involving Americans can become deeply complex when jurisdictions, embassies, and foreign law enforcement are involved. The community recognized that pattern immediately in Ashlee's case, and they made a collective decision. This one does not get forgotten. This one does not fade. This one stays loud until there are answers. The Zanzibar Ministry of Tourism released a statement asking for patience and urging people to let the investigation proceed. But you cannot ask a community that has watched this happen before, that watched it happen to Shanquella, to simply be patient while a medical record sits in a file saying strangulation and the police statement says hanging, and a body still has not come home. Patience ran out a long time ago. And the pressure from that community, from those millions of people who refuse to look away, is a significant reason why this investigation is still active, still visible, and still being talked about at an international level. Ashlee's followers kept her alive online, and her community is keeping this case alive in the public eye. That matters. It matters enormously. All right, let's get really specific, because I think in cases like this, it is easy to get swept up in the emotion and the outrage and lose track of the actual concrete questions that need to be answered. So let me lay them out clearly. As of today, here are the things we do not know. The official autopsy results, done on April 15th, not released, not to the public, not to Ashlee's family. The investigation is ongoing. That is the only statement that keeps coming out of Tanzanian authorities. But ongoing for how long? With what timeline? Under what standard of transparency? Nobody is saying. The hotel surveillance footage. The Zuri Zanzibar is a high-end international resort. It has cameras. Harry Robinson has specifically and publicly asked for that footage to be reviewed and accounted for. It has not been publicly addressed by investigators. What does that footage show? Does it show what time McCann returned to Ashlee's villa that night? Does it show anything that complicates or confirms the current narrative? The family wants to know, the public wants to know. And right now, silence. The unidentified mark. The hospital report noted an unidentified mark around Ashlee's neck. Unidentified, meaning medical staff documented it and could not or did not explain what caused it. In a case where the official cause of death involves the neck, an unidentified mark on the neck is not a minor footnote. It is a central question, and it has not been explained publicly. The 11-hour gap. McCann knew Ashlee was in a hospital for 11 hours before contacting her family. What was he doing in those 11 hours? What conversations happened? Who did he speak to? Was he at the hospital? Was he back in his villa? Was he on the phone with anyone? This has not been publicly addressed by McCann, by authorities, or by anyone with direct knowledge. The discrepancy between police and medical records. Police say hanging. Hospital document says strangulation and suffocation. Those two descriptions have not been reconciled publicly. No authority has stood up and explained how both of those things can be true simultaneously, or acknowledged that one of them might be wrong. McCann's full statement to investigators. He has been questioned as a witness. He has given investigators some version of events. That statement has not been made public. We do not know what account he gave of that night, in detail, in sequence, in full. And until we do, there is a version of events that only he and investigators know. When Ashlee's body will be released. Tanzanian officials have not yet released Ashlee's body to her family. There is no public timeline for when that will happen. Her parents cannot bury her, cannot hold a service, cannot have any form of closure. And nobody is telling them when that changes. 7 questions. 7 things that should have public answers by now. 7 things that Ashlee's family is still waiting on. And every single day that passes without those answers is another day that the people who loved her most are left in the worst possible kind of limbo. Knowing their daughter is gone, but not knowing why, not knowing how, and not being able to bring her home. So what happens next? Because this case is not over, not even close, and there are a few things worth watching closely as this develops. First, the autopsy results. When those drop publicly, this entire case shifts. If the official results align with the hospital document listing strangulation and suffocation, that changes the legal conversation in Tanzania overnight. That changes what investigators can and cannot do with Joe McCann. That changes everything. And if the official results somehow say something different from that hospital document, that creates a whole new set of questions about how and why 2 official medical institutions came to different conclusions about the same body. Either way, the autopsy results are the next major moment in this case. When they drop, pay attention. Second, the surveillance footage. If investigators release or address the hotel camera footage publicly, that is going to answer questions that no statement from any party can answer. Cameras do not negotiate. Cameras do not have lawyers. Cameras show what happened. If that footage becomes part of the public record in any form, through court proceedings, through the family's legal efforts, through international legal frameworks, it's going to be significant. Third, McCann's next move. He cannot stay in Tanzania indefinitely with his passport held. At some point, investigators either charge him, which would change everything, or they release his passport and he comes home. If he comes home without charges and then continues his silence, the public pressure on this case is going to reach a completely different level, because at that point he's on American soil, and there are journalists and lawyers and a community of people who have been demanding answers for weeks. His silence has worked so far because he's physically far away and legally protected by the status of witness rather than suspect. That equation changes when he lands back in Miami. And fourth, the family's legal options. Harry Robinson and Yolanda Endres are not passive people. They have shown that repeatedly. The question of whether they pursue independent legal avenues in Tanzania, in the U.S., through international legal frameworks is very much open. The GoFundMe they launched is not just for travel, it's for the fight ahead. And that fight is far from over. The Zanzibar government has asked for patience. Ashlee's father responded simply, "No one wants to talk to us. Just let us know what happened. That's the only thing we want to know, is the truth." That is the standard, not a complicated one, not an unreasonable one, the truth. Here is what I keep coming back to with this case. Ashlee Jenae posted her last photo on her birthday, feeding a giraffe, rose petals at her feet, a ring on her finger, and a caption that felt like the beginning of something. Chapter 31, and I'm exactly where I need to be.
She called her mother to FaceTime her from Africa, just to show her face, just to share the joy, just to say, "Mom, look at my life right now. Look at how good this is." And now that same mother is watching press conferences from Tanzanian authorities, reading hospital documents with medical language she never asked to learn, waiting for a phone call that tells her she can finally bring her daughter home. That is the reality underneath all the documents and the timelines and the contradictions and the questions. A mother who just wants her child back. A father standing in embassy corridors asking for the truth. A community of women who saw themselves in Ashlee and refused to let her story disappear into a filing cabinet. This case is still moving. I will cover every single update the moment it drops, so if you're not subscribed yet, do that now. Share this video if you believe Ashlee deserves answers. Drop a comment. Genuinely, I read every single one, and your perspectives matter. The world is watching Tanzania right now, and we are not looking away. For Ashlee.